The blueprint, study my movement, more than the 2 cents. Was losing, now I'm oozing with success. Now I got the tools to beat the stress. I lose cause I'm a step ahead of you.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. I am exceedingly excited to talk about NXT, which is really good for a wrestling show. NXT is balls to the wall every single week. They're going to do something ridiculous every single week. They did numerous ridiculous things on this episode of NXT, but Jesus Christ, did they take the goddamn cake with Dolph Ziggler becoming the NXT champion. Wow. There's a positive way to take it and there's a negative way to take it. But I'm going to look at it from both perspectives, but they're going to do that a little bit later. First, we're going to talk about news and notes. The news and notes that I want to discuss is going to be from Finn Balor. So Finn Balor did a bunch of interviews and he talked about NXT. And one of the things that he said that was skipped over by a lot of the media is that he actually thinks that NXT 2.0 was necessary. Wow. So, Finn Balor, big fan of NXT 2.0, on After the Bell with Corey Graves, he says, quote, "It was needed. I don't want to say it was getting stale, but having been there for a year and a half in my second run, I felt like all the matches had taken place. It was going in a cycle and something needed to change. As soon as I left, 2.0 came in, and it was a completely new crop of superstars, young, fresh people. Me, as a fan, when I was younger, I never took joy out of seeing the same matches or the same people every week. I was always hungry for, who is this new guy? What's his backstory? Where did he come from? I wonder what moves he does. I was so curious about wanting to learn about these new guys. As a fan, that's what I want." Then he says, as soon as I moved back to SmackDown and NXT 2.0 came out, it was cool seeing completely new people. I was gone only about a month and there was people I had never met on TV. It was hugely surprising. Maybe a lot of people in the business were like, that's stupid. Who are these guys? They haven't paid their dues. But for me, as a fan, I think this is cool. These are guys I've never heard of, their names, and now they're on TV and succeeding. I remember watching War Games and these 4 relatively new guys in the ring with 4 experienced guys, and it's incredible and something fresh. Maybe I'm so jaded and exhausted from seeing so much over the years, but it's cool to see new guys doing new stuff. It's unpredictable in the sense that you don't know their spots, routine, or shtick. You're getting to see and witness something new for the first time, and that's pretty rare. Hats off to NXT for risking it all and really committing to 2.0. Well, I'll just be damned. I'll just be damned. Dog, my man, Finn Balor, absolutely came through, crushed the buildings. That was a pretty good quote, but that's not the quote that I was really looking for. The quote that I was really looking for, where he not only said that NXT 2.0 was needed, but he did feel that Black and Gold NXT was not doing its job. So he continues. There's a lot of guys that came into NXT that weren't given the full NXT experience, right? I feel like I was very fortunate that I was in Japan for a long time. I moved to NXT, I got retrained in a very different WWE style, and then moved onto Raw and SmackDown. After I moved, NXT had a kind of developed its own style of wrestling, and kind of changed, and it wasn't really preparing people for Raw or SmackDown. It was just putting people on NXT, and then they were just kind of wrestling. They're saying independent style or Japanese style or European style on NXT, and then they were getting pulled onto Raw or SmackDown, but they hadn't been given any of these key nuggets of information by people like Matt Bloom or Terry Taylor at the Performance Center that, Triple H or Road Dogg. They were kind of explaining to me that you need to make stuff mean more. My indie mind would have been like, hey, give them explosions, give them bombs, give them action movies. But if every match is an action movie, who wins the Oscar? The drama, So the drama is obviously way better than the blockbuster action movie. And definitely, I feel like a lot of guys were hindered by the success of NXT in the fact that it changed its style and then stopped preparing people for Raw and SmackDown. And maybe that's the difference between me, Nakamura, Zayn, Kevin Owens. that we were in that first kind of wave of NXT guys that were actually being prepared for Raw and SmackDown, and they were tinkering with our style, and I was really compromising my style, going back to that word earlier. And then the next generation that came in was just kind of like, just go do your thing, man. That's what we want to see. And they weren't maybe as criticized as much, picked apart as much. And I feel like a lot of guys suffered because of that, because they weren't given the same knowledge that we were given. Holy shit. Finn Balor said this out of his own mouth. And people kind of completely passed over it. Not really understanding that when you look at all the people who were released, a lot of them were that second wave NXT. You know, and some guys left on their own, of their own volition. Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole. But you had Keith Lee, Swerve, Karrion Kross. A lot of those guys are gone. What was the difference between those guys and these guys? Andrade, right? Johnny Gargano. All those guys are gone. You know, I think the last true NXT champion fucking might have been Samoa Joe. You know, and I'm talking second run Samoa Joe. Who did Samoa Joe lose the belt to? Somebody, nerd, please help me. No, I think, did he lose to Robert Roode? No, maybe not. Whenever Malachi Black came in, or Aleister Black, whenever he came in, I think that's where they began the whole, if you're an indie guy, just go do your thing, kind of NXT, you know? So, I'm pretty sure it might not have been Samoa Joe, because I don't remember a Samoa Joe Aleister Black match. So, it might have been somebody else. In any event, I think when they did that, when they put the belt on Aleister Black, I think that was 2017. From 2017 to 2021, it was basically indie guys go do indie shit. And you started seeing a bunch of indie talent start getting signed, fewer prospects, more indie talent. And as Finn Balor said, they weren't getting nitpicked. They weren't getting retrained. They weren't being told what they wanted, what the office of Raw and SmackDown wanted them to do. They weren't being taught. So a lot of these guys were failing. They were falling apart. And it makes sense because when you look at it, not only did you see a lot of those guys get fired, and they probably were resistant to the changes that were being asked of them anyway. But that also begs the question, rather. What did Riddle and Damian Priest, what did they do right? You know, like that's the question I'm looking at. Like it's easy to look at a guy like a Karrion Kross and Keith Lee and to say, oh, WWE dropped the ball, or, you know, here's the weaknesses of that guy. But you have to ask the question, because Damian Priest came from that class, that second class. He didn't get cut. Riddle came from that second class. He didn't get cut. But a lot of the top guys did. And they really kind of forced out Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole. They did kind of force those guys out. You know, they kind of slowly but surely kind of shoving those guys out of the door. Certainly AEW is over there waiting for them, but they slowly but surely started phasing a lot of those guys who came in after 2016. They started phasing them out. I think you could probably look, and I think somebody did this. They went into a takeover card, and they started counting all the people who are not there anymore. And I think it was a recent one, too. It might have been In Your House. It had like Keith Lee, he's not there anymore. Gargano's not there anymore. Cole's not there anymore. You know, a bunch of people who are not there anymore. And to me, I'm kind of like, hey, it is what it is, you know, but a lot of those other people are like pining for the old days of NXT without realizing the purpose of NXT was always to be the feeder system to Raw and SmackDown. When they decided, hey, we're going to do third brand, it didn't work out, because when they start poaching people from that brand, and those people not only are not ready, but also you deplete the star power of that third brand. Well, now you have to do the big trouble of building these people up, building up new people, you know? And it really wasn't working out. So I'm so glad Finn Balor said it. And therefore I didn't have to say it anymore, because it's out there now. And people can completely and totally ignore it if they want to. But Finn Balor just confirmed everything that I said. NXT was supremely stale. When they did that 4-man match, it was like a 4 corners match in NXT. It was like a Tuesday episode or something. to try to figure out who the next NXT champion was going to be, and it ended up with I think they had some kind of match that ended in a draw. I think it was an Iron Man match. It went like a full hour and it was a draw. I was so fucking mad. I don't remember what match it was. I think it was Cole and Balor they did on TV, and it went a full draw. I was so fucking angry. And that's when I was done with NXT. I was like, fuck this. We have seen this match before. We have seen these kinds of matches before. I'm tired of these 4 fucking guys. I'm tired of Ciampa, tired of Cole, tired of Balor, tired of Gargano, tired of these fucking guys, the same guys over and over and over again. I'm tired of these fucking guys. And it took a while, but eventually they got all of them out of there. And now they're teasing on yanking Ciampa out of there. So good. Good, great. I'm getting what I wanted. And they say Vince don't listen to the audience. God damn it, he listened to me. So that's good enough. All right, so that's 10 minutes in. Let's get into NXT 2.0 from March the 8th, 2022. Match 1, Raquel Gonzalez and Cora Jade were defeated by Wendy Choo and Dakota Kai in the Women's Dusty Cup semifinals. I got very angry very, very quickly as Wendy Choo went to sleep in the middle of the ring, quote unquote. Raquel Gonzalez starts to creep up on her and try to elbow drop her, but then she suddenly wakes up and rolls away. I was disgusted by this. I hated this. Something I did actually like though. Dakota Kai is outside the ring. She comes face to face with Raquel Gonzalez and starts having PTSD. It was like that gif of the Power Rangers holding their helmets and jerking back and forth. That's kind of how it was. She was like, oh no, what am I supposed to do? My old partner, no. Then Toxic Attraction blasted Raquel Gonzalez in the knee with a pipe or some type of metal object. And then just for shits and giggles, JC Jane threw her leg against the ring post. I'm pretty sure that added absolutely nothing to the scene, but Raquel Gonzalez did a good job of selling it. That created a situation in which Cora Jade had to fight the rest of the match by herself. They did a story where Raquel Gonzalez fought through it. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez were in the ring, and Raquel Gonzalez has this power over Dakota Kai, who was actually kind of concerned about her in spots. And it's in the corner. She was about ready to do the running pump kick in the corner, which I think is her finish. And she didn't do it because Raquel Gonzalez used to be her friend. So she's kind of hesitating on doing it. And then when she actually did do it, Raquel Gonzalez countered it, tried to do the Jinkoa bomb. Her knee went out. Ultimately, they ended up hitting the big kick in the face. Then a couple of finishers from the top rope. Wendy Choo, Dakota Kai win the match. That was okay. This was all I thought set up so that we could move Cora Jade and Raquel Gonzalez to the tag team championship by building heat between them and Toxic Attraction, which is what I thought. Instead, I got swerved. Later in the show, Mandy Rose is hanging out in the Toxic Lounge. I don't know what the hell they call it, the Toxic Suite. And Idris Enofe and Malik Blade. What did I tell you guys about Raw? I told you guys on Raw, there is somebody who's got a fetish for the black men and the white women. Somebody has got that fetish going through the WWE. I'm looking at Vince. I'm thinking it's Vince. Somebody has a fetish, but these oily dudes they beat up Mandy Rose. They beat up her chauffeurs or servers or butlers or whatever, and then replaced them. And so they're feeding Mandy Rose grapes and everything, and she's not paying no attention to it. She's watching, I think, the Women's Dusty Cup. The Women's Dusty Cup finals. Well, semifinals. The other semifinal match, which was won by Kaylee Ray and Io Shirai. We'll talk about that in a second. And Cora Jade slips past both of these two morons to get into a fight with Mandy Rose. And this was very good. Because these guys are just horny dudes. They're not really trained security dudes. They're just horny and want to smell Mandy Rose's farts. So, as she's doing her thing and she got her feet all kicked up, eating grapes and sipping wine and everything. And Cora Jade just was able to jump her because of this. So it was actually pretty well put together storytelling. in terms of, her trained guards got jumped and beat up, and they were replaced by horny homeboys who just wanted to be in Mandy Rose's presence. So they weren't paying attention when Cora Jade jumped in with her small self. And she, they was able to get a couple of punches and, hits in before they were all separated from the big scrum. So that was fun. So it's looking like Cora Jade is probably going to be the opponent for Mandy Rose at Stand and Deliver, which, if we're being honest, is probably going to be the time to give her the belt. I know that we haven't really been talking a lot about who should win the title from Mandy Rose. I know a lot of people are kind of married to the Io Shirai idea, but I think that Cora Jade is probably the one. I can't really think of anybody else right now who has any real momentum that it should be. So I'm thinking it's got to be Cora Jade. If she beats Cora Jade, then she's got to wait for, Nikkita Lyons? She has to wait for Saray to get ready. I mean, they're barely getting started. They can't really do much of anything at the moment. So it's got to be Cora Jade. And she's been champion for a little while already. So kind of a short feud between her and Cora Jade could actually work. And I mean short, I mean a couple of months, where Jade wins the belt and then Mandy kind of chases for a little while. They have the second match eventually, then the third match down the line. There's just a way to do that. So Cora Jade is probably going to be the one to finally uproot Mandy Rose as the women's champion. Now, since we're on the topic of the Dusty Cup, the second match was won by Kaylee Ray and Io Shirai, who defeated Kacy Catanzaro and Kaden Carter. A wild match. Pretty wild. Of course, Kacy Catanzaro and Kaden Carter are big on the spots and athleticism. But they did a Poison Rana from an elevated position, from the Doomsday Device position. Quite frankly, one of the scariest spots I probably have ever seen. It was absolutely frightening, and I thought Kaylee Ray was killed. It looked botched. It looked like she landed on her head, and then she kept holding her head and neck. Now, she did continue in the match. She threw a super kick and a gory bomb after that, but she needed aid to continue standing, and she kind of had a smile on her face. I think maybe she was selling, but my God, bro, what a bump. What a tremendously ridiculous bump. And I hate when they do these bumps and it's not the finish, That'd have been a great finish. For them to just break that out in a match and then just say, okay, they did do it would have been a finish if the person hadn't broke it up. So it's not like she kicked out of it. This Doomsday Poison Rana. She didn't kick out of it. It was broken up, but still, it should have been the finish. Man, what a spot. That shit was crazy. Tommaso Ciampa talks about winning 3 NXT championships, and that's something that he's going to be very proud of. And that, he is fighting for something that means more than the NXT championship, which is weird. He thought he'd never have to say that, but he wants to walk into Stand and Deliver as the champion. Then he says that never has there been such a huge gap between number 1 and number 2. And you two guys can argue about who's number 2 and who's to be, but you're looking at number 1, and it's Tommaso Ciampa. Then you have Braun Breaker says that he's the underdog, but he's the champion. And, Dolph and Ciampa, they have all this experience and notoriety, but he's the guy going hard in the gym. He's the guy going hard in the weight room. He's the guy going hard in film. He's doing what he loves, and he's got a passion for this business. And he looks at all the guys who have been NXT champion, and that inspires him to go forward and to become and maintain being NXT champion. Then Dolph Ziggler cut a very short promo as he paced backstage and say, you guys have got WrestleMania weekend all sold up, and old DZ is coming here to break it up. He's just coming. He's just coming to play spoiler. And I literally cannot believe that Dolph Ziggler has become the NXT champion. How they managed to put this thing together is fantastic. Now, the match itself was fine. It wasn't great. Bryan did blow a spot. I don't know what happened to him. Maybe he tripped. But he was supposed to break up the spot where Tommaso Ciampa gave Dolph the knees to the back. And then Dolph kicked out. So they worked their way back into the spot so that Bron Breakker could do the spear and spear Ciampa while he had Dolph in the air. It was very sloppy. I think he tripped. That's what I think it happened. Is he probably just tripped over his own feet and fell. Because he ended up falling out of the ring. It was a very weird spot. But he hit Dolph with a pretty good spear. Dolph sold it like a motherfucker, like he always does. Robert Roode came out there, saved Dolph from the bench press power slam of Bron Breakker. Later, as Tommaso Ciampa tried to throw a knee to Bron Breakker's head, Roode snatched Bron out of the way and kind of pitched him into the barricade and hit his head against the barricade. Tommaso Ciampa was distracted by the fact that Robert Roode had basically saved Bron Breakker. He walked right into a super kick and a 1-2-3. Dolph Ziggler is the NXT champion. Now, there's two ways to look at this. The negative way to look at it is that a guy who was a job guy on Raw came down to NXT and became the champion. That's a very negative view of it. Considering NXT is developmental, I'm okay with Dolph Ziggler winning the title because I know where it leads. All right, I just know where it leads. Yes, it probably would have been better for business if Dolph didn't lose so much on Raw. Yes, it probably would have been better for business if he didn't lose in NXT. Shit, he lost just last week in NXT. But at the same time, it went pretty much the way that Dolph said it was going to. They stole it. This was a heist. This wasn't Dolph Ziggler coming down there and beating a bunch of dudes and, solidifying himself as being a top dog in NXT. He came down there and he hung around. He hung in there through by hook or by crook. He became the NXT champion. He outsmarted his opponents. And now he is a sort of weak champion, a beatable champion. But he's over enough that he's a star. He's popular and well known enough that this makes sense. And considering he's probably just going to drop it back to Bron Breakker at Stand and Deliver, this is fine. So I think this was very good. It was a great moment. I wouldn't call it hot-shotting, which I saw some people say, oh, you're hot-shotting the belt. Like, not really. They kind of teased that this would happen. When they had Robert Roode interfere and Dolph Ziggler beat Tommaso Ciampa, they kind of teased that this is what would occur. So, it was smart. It was very smart booking. Now, Bron Breakker lost the title without losing. Ciampa lost. Now, Bron has a complaint. He has a double complaint. He has the complaint that Robert Roode was interfering. And he has the complaint that Ciampa was the one who got pinned and not him. This could lead to the rematch. Now, what do we do with Ciampa? Clearly, Dolph Ziggler is going to be in NXT for a while. He may even show up on Raw with the NXT title. But what is he going to do with Ciampa? It was this Ciampa's last stand. And now Ciampa just goes to Raw on a permanent basis. To me, that's probably what it's going to end up being. Maybe he'll go off TV for a while. Maybe he'll wrestle one more match. And he'll probably be coming up full-time Raw or SmackDown after WrestleMania. That's what it seems like to me. I think he's done all he can do in NXT. I don't think he's been like the North American champion or anything like that, but he doesn't really need to. I think they really squeezed a lot of the juice out of Tommaso Ciampa since NXT 2.0 has started. He's been the top black and gold guy that remains. And now they kind of needed to move him out of the way. So they put in Dolph in the sort of Stan Stasiak spot, the Ivan Koloff spot, where Usually that spot would go from moving the title from one person to another, from Braun to someone else, but it's going to be a transitional run back to Braun. It just basically broke up his title run to put sympathy on him, because now he's got to fight both of these guys, and you don't have to do it pretty much by himself now, because Ciampa has proven to not really be the best partner, considering he just got beat. So this is good. I like the storytelling here. I like the surprise here. This is a legitimate surprise. A guy that nobody expected to win. They were smart and didn't have Bryan get beat, so that Bryan has been unbeaten, but he did lose. And now he's going to go into Stand and Deliver in front of a bigger crowd as a sympathetic babyface who got jobbed out of his title. And he's going to look better for it in the end, I believe. So this is a very strong segment. And it's okay to just be, a Dolph Ziggler fan and just be like, wow, I can't believe Dolph Ziggler won a title again. Amazing stuff. I mean, this is a guy who was far removed from championships. I don't know when the last time Dolph Ziggler won a title. When was the last time he won a singles belt? 2017, maybe? When he won that U.S. title out of nowhere and then gave it up. He just kind of gave it away. Whatever storyline was supposed to occur with that, it was dropped. So he just kind of gave away his U.S. title for no reason. So as a Dolph Ziggler fan, that was fun. Dolph Ziggler wins. That rules. All right, so the Creed brothers, they got to jump backstage in the NXT parking lot. Now they didn't get the full parking lot experience. So it was just kind of like a half, 3/4 of a parking lot experience. But there was pipes and everything, and the Creed brothers were beat up. Diamond Mine was very distraught. Then it was a big old whodunit. Who attacked the Creed brothers? So Briggs and Jensen, they were going to go find out who attacked the Creed brothers, and they blamed Legado del Fantasma, which makes perfect sense that you would blame them, and said that they were the ones who turned the NXT parking lot into a danger zone, and said that it was them. They're sure that they did it. Legado del Fantasma said, if it was us, everybody would have known it. It was probably you guys. They're like, no, we're the good guys. And this conversation devolves into, I about to call her Carmen Electra. I'm laughing because this shit is so silly. Elektra Lopez telling Jensen that he can't get laid. He says, I'm working on that. I was like, oh, what cringe. This nigga Santos Escobar said, well, yeah, you keep working on that. Holy shit. So, this was the second time we saw these J Browns tonight. The first time we saw them, they were out there helping Fallon Henley celebrate her victory over Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton was winning this match handily until Saray kicked her in the back of the head behind the ref's back. Fallon Henley then won the match with like a running knee strike or something like that. And then I was like, what on earth is this thing? It was like some weird disco shit. I'm like, what is this? It was like absolute garbage theme that they probably threw together in 2 minutes. It's not like they made that theme on the spot. Like, oh shit, she actually won. Just start pressing chords and stuff. What an awful thing. Anyway, Briggs and Jensen were very excited. They put her on their shoulders, and she's a regular old part of the band. This old Fallon Henley. She's a part of the group. But the absolute cringe of Jensen and Briggs was less so this week. Jensen was actually funny this week when he said he was working on getting rid of his V card. And I love that Santos Escobar did not care about any of this stuff and just told him to keep working on what he was doing and just went on about his day. MSK then volunteered to take the Creed's spot after Imperium did their lightweight bragging. But they did deny that they attacked the Creed brothers by saying that underhanded tactics would disrespect this great sport. And said that the Creeds wasn't really ready for Imperium after all. So they have the match. The MSK versus Imperium for the tag team championships. Match is pretty good. It was okay. Then the Creed brothers came out of nowhere and wrecked everybody. Very sloppily, by the way. I mean, guys were falling on their elbows. Dudes were falling on their arms. I was like, oh god, somebody's going to dislocate something. There's just too many green dudes throwing people all over the place around here, okay? And they're so excited that they're not thinking about the technique of what they're doing. Because the crowd is 100% behind the Creeds. You know, the crowd was actually kind of booing MSK. I'm guessing baby girl and her parents are back booing MSK again. But when the Creeds came in and started wrecking shop, you know, the crowd was fully behind them. Rightfully so. They were guys who got jobbed out and got their title shot taken away. Now, I didn't mind this. It sets up a triple threat match, which I do mind. But we still didn't answer the question of who did it. And I'm thinking MSK did it. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking MSK needs something. They need an edge. Sure, we could just say it was Imperium. We didn't see it. It was the beating was off camera. We could always just blame Imperium. It's the easy thing to do. But I think we should be blaming MSK. And I think MSK should be the culprits in the end. And would it really hurt them to add some elements of dastardliness and naughtiness to their characters? Would it really add it to turn them heel? You know, I don't think they can work heel. They probably just don't have the charisma. But I'm willing to give it a shot. For Christ's sake, they're terrible as a babyface tag team. They're just boring as shit. The Creed brothers are actually pretty fucking awesome as babyfaces or heels. But they got to be more careful. You know, they're just throwing guys over their head, not really paying attention to where the hell the guy lands. And they're going to tear somebody's shoulders and knees and shit up. You know, they gotta straighten up. NXT, you can be a little bit sloppy. You know, it's probably not the best thing in the world because it's on national TV. But at the same time, it's developmental. People going to take it with a grain of salt. You know, I'd rather you fuck it up in NXT than fuck it up on Raw or SmackDown and you fucking it up with higher value talents. If you destroy Fabian Eichner's arm, that sucks for Fabian Eichner. But it's a lot better than if you throw, you know, Randy Orton and tear his shit up. Then it's going to be a real problem then. So it's almost like putting the kids in a playpen. You know, they going to fuck some stuff up. Sure. They fuck it up in your own space. Don't come fucking up my stuff. You know, unlike, you know, Dynamite, where people come and they fuck up pay-per-views. That's a goddamn shame. All right. So Chase U did a vignette. Chase U says, in Chase U, you perform how you practice. And that his entrance was botched and he blamed the students for screwing it up and saying that it threw off his game. That's why he lost. But he said that the one bright spot was Bodie Hayward, who had a magnificent shiner. And one student says, hey, you know, look at his eye. He probably should go to the hospital. Then Andre Chase says, you know, says to this guy, where did you get your medical degree? Asked Bodie Hayward how many fingers he was holding up. He held up the number 1. Hayward had to squint and get a little bit closer, said 1. Then he flipped off the other guy and said, how many fingers am I holding up? Cuss that guy the fuck out. I was like, oh my goodness, we're taking it there. Obviously, Bodie Hayward is going to be the teacher's pet. I don't mind that. You know, they could be a pretty viable tag team. All right, Trick and Mello in the barbershop again. Talking about how they don't miss. Trick said that Pete shoot worse than Westbrook. I only know who this guy is because I saw the interview that he don't want to be called Westbrick. Somebody at work had it playing on his phone or whatever, and I heard that and I was like, this is absolutely absurd. Like, athletes have gotten so pussy these days. Anyway, so that made this such a really good joke. I don't watch basketball. So Melo says that he started creating the golden rules. I got the gold, I make the rules. Then he started saying he wants to have a ladder match. And somebody says, well, so who's your opponent going to be? And Melo's like, 1? And he was like, well, so what you think? You thinking 2? He's like, 2? You sure? They get up to like 10 and say, there's not even 10 people underneath me. Then they landed on the number 4. And they going to make people qualify. So Trick wasn't happy about this whole ladder match thing. And Melo says that he got to do it because he got to prove that he's the greatest North American champion of all time. So he's got to win the match that created the title in order to prove that he's the greatest of all time. They actually made a way to make that shit make sense. It was like when Santino wanted to be the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time. So he figured he has to break the Honky Tonk Man's record. And if he breaks the Honky Tonk Man's record for how long he held the title, then he'll be the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time. So he has a similar goal. And I'm guessing it's probably going to have a similar result. Because more than likely Carmelo Hayes is going to lose his North American title in this 5-man ladder match. But I forget who the first opponents are. But it's going to be 5 dudes. Okay, whatever. They made it make sense. What did make no sense and was trash as hell? Lash Legend featuring Nikkita Lyons. Oh my good God. What a train wreck. Now, this was 100% daytime TV gossip girl shit. And it perfectly encapsulated the shit that it's supposed to be parodying. Lash Legend is a parody of, Wendy Williams or whatever. So this was that. Lash Legend asked her if her mama just followed her daddy around or was she following everybody around. Then Nikkita Lyons said, and I can't believe she said this out of her own mouth, that her mama was a free spirit and taught her not to be judgmental. I said, are you fucking kidding me? You shitting me. Your mom was a whore. And you just tell everybody on TV instead of getting mad about it. And that's what the whole thing is. Lash Legend was just trying to, get a little dig at her about this thing. And Nikkita Lyons is just so aloof to the whole thing, and trying to be inspirational and all that shit. You just called your mom a whore on television. What the fuck? You might as well just say, yeah, she's kind of fucking everybody. So here I am. Oh God, what the fuck? So then, Lash Legend started getting on her about why she's trending on Twitter. And this is so ridiculous. So she putting her finger as, she's talking with her hands like black women tend to do. And Nikkita Lyons like, please get your fingers out of my face. And then Lash Legend said to her, what are you and your butt implants going to do about it? Holy shit. Holy shit. I can't believe NXT is literally like this. So, Nikkita Lyons, butt implants, bro. So, Nikkita Lyons gets up and says that outside of this spray tan and these nails, I'm all natural. Good God, bro. They really got her talking about spray tans. Oh, fuck. And her mom being a whore. Jesus, why is this a part of her character, bro? Oh, why is this part of her character? At least they putting her in a feud immediately. They're trying to capitalize somewhat off of this whole thing, this Nikkita Lyons phenomenon. They're trying to capitalize on it by, putting her in segments and letting people see her character and talk to her and stuff like that. All right. But Lash Legend is awful. She's awful at everything, bro. She was not good in this segment. Nikkita Lyons looked ridiculous in this segment. She sounded ridiculous too. But at least she admitted to having a spray tan. I was like, I don't care, man. This is just an absolute train wreck of a segment. I laughed through this whole goddamn thing. It was one of those so bad is good things. So bad it was funny to watch. But this was awful. We don't need any more Lash Legend. And they'll make things worse is that Nikkita Lyons now has to work with her. So how is this match going to go? That's what I want to know. Because Lash Legend is she's not good. She ain't good at all. And Nikkita Lyons is okay, but I don't think she's in any way good enough to make Lash Legend look good. I don't know how this is going to work out. Sean is going to have to sprinkle some of the good match fairy dust on these people, man. He going to have to go across that shit with a cheese grater. They going to have to sprinkle so much of that shit around there, they ain't going to have no more left for nothing else. In order for this to even get to a passable level. That's how terrible Lash Legend is. She is awful. She's awful and a half. She's that bad. And maybe she's young. She's a WNBA player, but she's not good. And she doesn't have a good personality either. I just don't like her. But Nikkita Lyons, oh my baby. Ooh boy, she was hot. She was smoking again, man. She 3 for 3. She 3 for 3. She out here killing it. And I'm pretty sure she's loving all the attention too. She's a young woman too. Loving that attention. Brothers out here thirsty. Give them some Pedialyte. They out here thirsty. Third match on the show. LA Knight defeated by Grayson Waller in a last man standing match. This was very satisfying up to a point. Because LA Knight was completely obliterating Grayson Waller. Just beating his ass all across the NXT arena. Beating the dog shit out of him. And then he knocked Grayson Waller off of a balcony. And there was a almost cartoonish aspect to it. Where we're trying to figure out where did he land. Because there was no sound. There was no yelling or whatever. And then we find that Sanga had caught him. And so Sanga has him in his hands or whatever. Sanga and Grayson Waller are going to handcuff LA Knight to the ring post. Like Batista got tied up to the ring post in his last man standing match, which was absolutely a stupid finish, by the way. But instead, LA Knight escapes, handcuffs Sanga to the ring post, so now he can beat on Grayson Waller with unmolested. Grayson Waller begins to fight back. He does his stunner spot. It gets countered as he gets thrown over the top rope through a table. I was like, oh boy. And that still wasn't the finish. What was the finish is that Grayson Waller had something in his pockets. I think it was a slapjack. He walloped LA Knight across the head with it, laid him on the announce table, leapt in the air like a jungle cat. But the boy got ups. He's talking about white men can't jump. Elbow smash through the table on LA Knight. They both were down. They both were getting counted. Grayson Waller climbed up Sanga's pants and shirt and used him to lean on so that he can be standing. And therefore he wins. Good finish. Good finish. I legitimately like that finish. It was sneaky, but at the same time, Grayson Waller did win the match on his own. He is in a prime spot to be a top contender for the NXT Championship when Braun get it back. Or the North American title if we're looking at a title switch here. So I don't mind. I know a lot of people are very upset that LA Knight is super over. I mean, the guy's tremendously over in NXT. And yet he keeps losing to this Gumby looking motherfucker here. But it's right. It's the right decision. Grayson Waller is slowly but surely getting his heat back. You know, he got a tremendous amount of heat for winning this match. A lot of people were very upset. So he's getting his heat back. You know, it took a while, but, you know, he's getting back to where he was before he lost to AJ Styles. I'm wondering what's the next position for them. Maybe LA Knight should take Tommaso Ciampa's spot as, you know, the resident experienced talent in NXT. As we move Ciampa up to Raw or SmackDown, LA Knight could easily fit into that spot. All right, so Tony D'Angelo, he's in his cousin Mikey's restaurant, and he talks about how cousin Mikey was a silent partner, and then eventually the guy who owned the restaurant decided to go out of business, so now he left it to cousin Mikey. And he says talking about how Stand and Deliver is huge, and WrestleMania weekend is going to have tons of people from all over the globe, and they're all going to come and watch him become the new Don of NXT. I forgot to mention this, and this actually should go. This should have been mentioned earlier. When Vic Joseph I think this was during Kaylee Ray and Io Shirai versus Casey Catanzaro and Kaden Carter. As Idris Enofe and Malik Blade are feeding Mandy Rose grapes and stuff. Wade Barrett is talking about Mandy Rose. Vic Joseph then calls him Beta Barrett. He said you can't go 2 hours without Beta Barrett coming out. I was like, oh my God. Vic Joseph just he insists on pimp slapping Wade Barrett every week. Wade Barrett then replied that a beta? You calling me a beta? You're a beta. You're a master beta. What the fuck is this conversation? Why are you dudes talking like this to one another? I can't believe it. Like, oh my good God, bro. Good God, this shit is great. This is a great fucking show, man. There's just so much shit happening. It's not boring. Like, that's the crazy thing. Like, even if it's shit, it's not boring. It's just constantly stuff happening. So now you got Persia Parada and Duke Hudson. They've had a really fun weekend. And Indy Hartwell was watching back the match last week, them losing in the Dusty Cup. And Persia Parada, is like, hey, we had so much fun. We did all this stuff and this stuff and this stuff. And Indy has a problem with Duke Hudson. She don't like that guy. Not anymore, anyway. She starts throwing some barbs at him. Persia's, hey, don't talk to him like that. Don't do that. Don't be like that. I supported you and you were in your relationship with Dexter. Then she started saying how she carried the team, and that bothered Indy Hartwell. She's like, what do you mean you carried the team? She was like, well, somebody had to. You were so obsessed with Dexter. And then they started going back and forth. And Indy was like, I was a tag team champion without you. And Persia Parada like, hey, if I was here, I would have won the tag team titles without you. So then they started kind of going back and forth, and they decided to agree to have a match next week to see who was the best member of this team. Indy Hartwell agreed to it, stormed off. Persia Parada was standing there. Duke Hudson was still there. Duke Hudson says, well, you got to train. I'll be your training partner. How about that? And then she says, let's start right now, and they start making out in the locker room. And the first thing I thought was that Sedgwick guy about Duke Hudson dry humping Persia Parada. I said, it made me laugh even harder. Because I was like, I just wonder how he's bending his own self into like, no, what are they doing? What? Like, is he like the Wicked Witch of the West? Like, heterosexuality makes his feet burn? Like, no, men and women are kissing. No, what's going on here? Oh God, that's fantastic. That's fucking hilarious, man. This show is it just throws 100 things at you, dog. Good matches, crazy characters, insane promos, terrible promos, cringe shit. It's just constantly go do your own thing. It's a complete abstract painting of nonsense. It's a shotgun blasted face. As we've got all this stuff going on, Tiffany Stratton has a problem. Forgot to mention this earlier too. She got beat because of Saray. And she said, I was just trying to help Saray with her wardrobe because you saw her tacky necklace. But next week, she's not going to fix her wardrobe. She's going to break her face. So Saray and Tiffany Stratton will have a match next week. Cool. I'm all right with that. Draco Anthony is in the gym. He's pumping that iron. And Harlan is watching him very creepily from the other side of the room. As Draco Anthony finally notices that Harlan is there, Gacy approaches him and says that they come in peace. And they want Draco Anthony to open up, to make friends. Zion Quinn, who has been missing for like 2 months. He's been gone for like 2 months. I thought he was hurt. And I didn't know his storyline with Legado del Fantasma was over. I'm surprised that story. Why did they drop that? That seemed like it was barely getting started. And he appears and says that Draco Anthony wants to be his own man. Doesn't want to deal with these guys. And then Gacy's like, but we want him to live his own life rather than living a lie. And said he was going to give him some more time to think about joining them. Zion Quinn said, he's going to have his back. And I'm like, all right. I would have preferred for Zion Quinn to complete that story with Legado del Fantasma, as he never got his payback on Elektra Lopez and Legado del Fantasma for betraying him and leaving him stretched out that one time. He should have gotten his revenge for that. I'm kind of disappointed that they would drop that story and not complete it. It's like, what the fuck? What's the point of putting all that time and effort into it? You're not going to complete the story. I mean, come on, brother. Get it together, brother. Draco Anthony continues to have the personality of a wooden plank. He's got to get it together. He's got to do something. He's got to make it shake. All right, so the last thing from NXT, from looking at my notes, I don't see anything else, is that A-Kid is coming over from NXT UK. This is a great move. There's plenty of people over in NXT UK that it's time for them to have come over to NXT a long time ago. Quite a few NXT UK talents have been over there for a long time. I mean, the fact that Tyler Bate is still over there is ridiculous. I don't understand why Tyler Bate is still over there. But A-Kid is the newest person to come over. The A stands for Anonymous. And they did a little vignette for him. I thought that was great. And then we are immediately followed by Ikem and Jiro. Absolutely marking out for him. A-Kid is very good. A-Kid is very good. And Kushida's like, yes, he is good. Yes, he's very good. And Jiro like, he's very good. He's very good. You're like, yes, very good. And then Jiro just kept marking out. And Kushida's like, I'm better. And he's like, you better? And he's like, I'm better. And so that's the match next week. A-Kid versus Kushida. That's going to be very good. I like that too. There's going to be a Japanese invasion next week. Saray's wrestling. Kushida's wrestling. This ought to be fun. It goes to show that the NXT roster is actually pretty deep, if you think about it, in terms of very talented wrestlers and very talented young wrestlers and older ones. A-Kid is not even 25. A-Kid is like 23 or something like that. He signed a WWE contract and he was like 20. And he's been over in NXT UK for like 2 years. He spent a year being a jobber. He spent a year being sort of a upper mid-card main event guy. He wrestled Walter. He had a great match with Ilya Dragunov. He had great matches with Tyler Bate. Maybe not Ilya Dragunov. I think it was Tyler Bate, because he lost Heritage Cup to Tyler Bate. So those matches were very good. Had hellified matches with Noam Dar that were pretty good. Had some. The only problem is personality. NXT UK is not doing the best job in cultivating personalities. They're not doing a really good job with that. But that's the weakness with A-Kid. They need to find a personality for him. His most recent storyline in NXT UK was him trying to civilize Saxton Huxley, who was a basically barely verbal barbarian type guy who was a little bit like Bruiser Brody, except a little, stupid. And A-Kid was trying to make him a civilized man. Of course, that storyline was kind of cut short, and they ended up having a match. And Huxley, what we found out was that Huxley was just pretending to be crazy. And that he really just kind of liked A-Kid, just kind of like hanging around him. So he was pretending to be nutty so that he'll have somebody to hang out with. This was like 2 or 3 weeks. This story didn't last long at all. They had the match. I think A-Kid won the match. Or maybe he lost it. I don't really remember at this point. And now he's coming over here. All right, cool. Sweet. He's welcome. A young guy, very good, very small. That's the problem. But we need more NXT UK talent to be brought over. Why they're still not bringing over Jordan Devlin is like, he should be the most natural fit, even though his head is bigger than his body. Just bring him on over. He's the next guy that should have brought over. I know a lot of people want Blair Davenport. I want Amel to come over. My God, Amel is hot. Ooh, boy. Now she's not thick. but the girl is hot. All right. I love me some Amel, you know. That's just me though. So NXT UK has a lot of talent that they really could have just sent over because they've been in NXT for a while, you know, or NXT UK for a while, and maybe they've peaked. And A-Kid is one of those people that have peaked. He wasn't going to be the NXT champion, so why should he still be over there? You know, there was no point. He actually can find a nice little spot here, you know, especially if maybe make him the North American champion, because I had a feeling that he'd probably end up in that ladder match. So it's interesting, but they're starting to slowly but surely. I think it was not that long ago they brought over Kaylee Ray. Then they brought over Walter. Now they're bringing over A-Kid. They're looking at the people who've got some tenure in NXT UK and finally saying, all right, this ain't the hideout either. You couldn't hide in Winter Park, Florida, and just stay in NXT and just be there, parking, doing your thing every day. You got to move up to Raw or SmackDown. We're going to start, you know, and people who don't want to, we're going to start phasing you out. NXT UK, same thing. We're just not going to let you folks just chill in London forever. You guys have to eventually make the move over. And I know that it's tough. And I know that it's hard and it's harsh. But it's time to start making some moves. And I actually think they need to start an excursion program. I don't understand why they don't do this. Where for certain talent who are not ready to go to the main roster, but they've been in NXT for a while, send them over to the European Performance Center. Somebody like Lash Legend, she definitely does not need to be on TV. Just pay for her to go to Europe, and maybe the training facility in London can do more with her. And then even if they can't, her matches will be on NXT UK. They'll be on the Peacock. They won't be on TV. They can hide her a little bit, you know, but she really could use working with like Meiko Satomura. You know, she really could, you know, use that help. WWE just does things that doesn't seem to make sense to me, you know, personally. I would definitely swap like 10 or 15 talent between NXT and NXT UK just for no reason but to freshen up NXT and then freshen up NXT UK, new opponents, new matchups. And then, you know, once somebody has did a short tour of NXT UK and a tour of NXT, then we bring them up to the main roster. Unless you're a freak like, you know, Brian Breaker or, you know, something like that, then you just do your NXT run. You go up to Raw or SmackDown. But I definitely would send, especially young talent who aren't really all that good, send them over to NXT for a little while, NXT UK for a little while. And the guys who are more seasoned over there, send them over here. You know, it's just an easy fix to a lot of problems. You know, it's just an easy fix to a lot of problems. But I like A-Kid. You know, this is gonna rule ass. And NXT UK is still very good. It's still a good show that most people are not watching. And it's sad. It's truly sad. But I don't know. That's just the nature of the game. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you guys for your time, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace out.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They just